Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. For most of today, the price of XRP has been hovering right around the 27-cent mark. As I record at this exact moment, according to Live Coin Watch, the price of XRP is 26.71 cents. I'll go ahead and round up to 27. It's close enough, and for getting part of the day, it's been a good bit above. I'll show you the charts in a second. So the question is, which direction are we going to go? I've got some outlooks from 5 different chart analysts. Since I am not a chart analyst, I do not have a financial background. I am not offering financial advice. This is purely for entertainment purposes. That's the reason I put this content out there. I am an enthusiast within the XRP community, so take that for what it's worth. I just think it's really fun to talk about this stuff and think about where things are heading, both in price and in terms of the development of the ecosystem. That's the reason that running this channel is my most favoritist hobby ever. But I'm going to talk about that, and check out this last piece. I can't wait to talk about this. From Cointelegraph. If Bitcoin fails, crypto industry in for a bad time, says Cardano founder. Now, before we get rolling here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you would please delicately tap that like button. And if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, you should subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel, or at least think about it. I'm telling you, there are definitely worse ways to spend your time. All right, let's go ahead and dive in here. So again, like I said, price of XRP just a little below 27 cents. You got Bitcoin at 8,324, and the market cap for the asset class at 224 billion. And in looking at the 24-hour chart of XRP, you can see the high. I mean, look, it hasn't moved that whole much. Like this looks really volatile, but this is over the range of like a penny or something like that. So let's see here. The low 24-hour low, 26.65 cents. And the high, 24-hour high, 27.41 cents. So right around that 27-cent mark is where it's been holding. So again, where exactly are we heading? Well, check out, this is a very short piece from A&B Crypto. There's an analyst whose name I'm about to butcher named Prashant Jha. Sorry, dude, don't know how to say it. I'm just not good with foreign names. Anyway, a piece titled, XRP might breach descending channel, falling wedge pattern to see its price climb. XRP, the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap, has had quite a forgetful year. I mean, I guess you're talking about price, huh? Because it hasn't mooned and we don't have Lambos yet. On one hand, other altcoins, despite not making any stellar progress, do you think they use stellar there on purpose? Did manage several bullish price movements from time to time in 2019. On the other hand, XRP has failed to breach the psychological barrier of 30 cents. At press time, XRP was trading at 27 cents, having experienced a minimal fall of 0.2% over the last 24 hours. Okay, so this year, actually, XRP has been over 50 cents. So I don't know what the hell this guy is talking about, but I mean, it went from, the upper 20-cent range to 50 cent. I believe at some point, I didn't double check, and it doesn't really matter. It happened this year. I believe it was May. So the price almost doubled in a very short time period. So, yes, it has done that. But again, like I say, every time that somebody likes to bring this up, that XRP's had a quote-unquote forgetful year, and of course referencing price, okay, whatever, if that's your opinion. But if you're just looking at from January 1st to now, okay, but there's such an arbitrarily chosen timeline, it doesn't really paint the picture of anything. And if you look historically at how XRP behaves, it has these really long periods where it, relatively speaking, does almost nothing. And fine, I cited that it did, almost double in value, fine. Then it went back down, but it tends to, for the most part, trade within this narrow bandwidth, and you saw that perfect examples in 2017, from May 2017 to December, before that huge rally. Didn't really do a whole lot, right? A lot of people I saw there were all sorts of tweets and some people on YouTube making videos about how XRP hadn't done anything, and so they were getting out of it. And then some of the people that posted that stuff in December, it's just, days later, and it just started rocketing in price. I'm like, oh, ouch, yeah, that's too bad. And then it went up to its all-time high of $3.90, according to Live Coin Watch. So, yeah, timing not so good. But that's why, for me, I don't care. Let humans do what they do. They're going to be speculative animals they are. I just want to have exposure to it so that the next time it does ramp up, I'm cool. That's how I look at it. Not financial advice, but that's exactly. And I'm happy, by the way, to patiently wait however long this takes. I just don't care. And so this is pretty much a short-term prediction this guy's making, but here's the conclusion, just a couple sentences. So this guy writes, XRP looked bullish in the short term as it formed a descending channel on the 1-hour price chart and a falling wedge on the 4-hour price chart. Both patterns are considered bullish, and the RSI indicator supported the claims as it showed that buyers were in a position to have an upper hand in the next few hours. And so again, I don't want to read through everything. This is not some sort of a tech analyst channel. I just like to share the sentiments of chart analysts, and then you can kind of just make your own decision about what you think it means, if anything. All right, next here's XRP community member, the Cryptalk chart analyst, who writes, and this was just a little bit earlier today, just to keep track as always, I see a downtrend breakout today. I said we knock at the door one time, then we break in. 28.4 cent retest before retesting the trend line, then we go. And so here's this chart here. So he thinks in the short term, looks like it could be slightly bearish, but then apparently ultimately rocket back up. So short term, very short term anyway, the way I'm reading this is bearish and then very bullish. So we will see. So there's another chart analyst. Check out this. Here is Patty Stash, who tweeted this out. XRP, ETH, as well as a few of the other top alts are right on the cusp of making a big resistance break against the Bitcoin trading pair. A slight pullback since yesterday, but if they both simultaneously break that resistance, it'll likely create the first big green candle on this. And here's the chart that he's got. So if you're not driving, feel free to take a look at the screen here where he circled this. This is what he's referencing right here. So there's another chart analyst right there predicting bullish direction here in terms of price action. All right. Now next, check out this. This is from Cointelegraph, titled "Bitcoin price hits 8,800 only to crash in a logistical move," says this analyst named William Suberg. Now, this is specifically about Bitcoin, but as I always say, and it is a matter-of-fact statement, XRP price is tethered to the price action of Bitcoin, so we do need to watch the price action of Bitcoin if we want to see what may be in store for XRP. So I'm just trying to paint a full picture for you here. So let's just dig in here a little bit. Bitcoin price traded broadly lower on October 11th after sudden volatility broke a sideways trend in place since earlier this week. Data from Coin360 showed Bitcoin/USD circling $8,350 on Friday, having jumped to a local high of above $8,770 earlier. The enthusiasm was short-lived, with the following crash taking the pair below its previous levels. Daily losses for Bitcoin totaled 2.3% at press time, while the largest cryptocurrency remained up 2.6% versus the same point last week. Markets broadly shook off events which commentators assumed would impact them. Specifically, the decision by U.S. regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to reject the latest Bitcoin exchange-traded fund failed to dent sentiment, which is fascinating because that happened years ago. You can imagine that would have, I'm telling you, the market was that much more touchy even just a few years ago. Like the wind could blow and the price of Bitcoin would plummet. Anyway, previous ETF denials had piled downward pressure on Bitcoin, suggesting markets this time had already priced in a negative decision. Another major ETF offering was withdrawn by its sponsors in September, hinting at a lack of confidence in the instrument winning approval. Okay. And I think maybe there's a final sentiment. Okay, so here's an altcoin part. For altcoins, a day of underwhelming returns for Bitcoin translated into similarly lackluster performance. Trending in line with Bitcoin, the major of the top 20 cryptocurrencies posted daily losses of 2 to 3%. ETH, the largest altcoin by market cap, fell 1.7% to $186, better than most. While Binance Coin, Bitcoin Cash, lost closer to 3%. XRP also bucked the trend, staying stable at 0.7% lower. And so I do want to say this. I've said it a few times recently, and I want to make sure this idea gets out there because I think that is indeed happening. Just this concept of XRP decoupling from Bitcoin in slow motion. I think it's happening day by day. And, if you want evidence, you can find it. Look at what happened very recently. When the market rallied over the last several days, to the degree that it rallied anyway. I understand a lot of it came back down. But that was, amazingly, it was led by XRP. XRP started pumping in price, and Bitcoin followed the coattails of XRP. For the second time in history that I'm aware of. The first time, I'd have to look back. It was either April or May, I want to say, of this year. Just pulling from memory. It doesn't matter. It did happen earlier this year, about half a year ago. Okay, Second time in history that I am aware of. Prior to that, XRP could have done whatever, and Bitcoin's like, no, this time it matters though. So I think that you're going to see this slow decoupling, and also there's a report even from, and I covered this on the channel also, very famous trader Peter Brandt, who is a Bitcoin maxi, noted that XRP price seems to have bottomed out relative to the price of Bitcoin, which is quite fantastic, really. And so I think it's going to take time, and yes, XRP does still move in tandem with Bitcoin most of the time, but it's having increasingly these instances where it doesn't really look like it's so much. And we also saw that in terms of the top 10 cryptocurrencies, and further evidence is that XRP, as it turns out, depends on which coins are in the top 10. So either XRP, and there's data on this, which I shared recently in case you missed it, either XRP is the least correlated to Bitcoin in terms of price action out of the top 10 cryptocurrencies, or it's the second most, depending on what coin has the number 10 slot. So in terms of price action, the number I remember is like 56% correlated at XRP to Bitcoin. And then you got Stellar here in the number 10 slot. If it is in the number 10 slot at any given moment, then it is truly the one that's least correlated. I have data shows that it's only 40% correlated. And that's fascinating too. It's just two coins that are almost exactly the same technology, and they're the least correlated to Bitcoin. There's something to that. I'm just saying, there's got to be something to that, right? All right, now check out this. Here's a piece from CoinDesk. Bitcoin fails at key price hurdle, risks return to $8,000. Bitcoin is facing further losses after the bulls failed to capitalize on price gains seen this week. The cryptocurrency's quick pullback from a 2.5-week high of 8,830 to below 8,400 this morning has invalidated a bullish breakout on the 4-hour chart seen Wednesday, which is illustrated here below. Let me jump down. I don't want to get into all this. There's not too much to cover here. And this is the chart analyst is named Amkar Godbol, if I'm saying that right. Again, with CoinDesk here. Bitcoin crossed the 200-day moving average in the Asian trading hours on Friday and jumped to highs above 8,800 as expected. The breakout was short-lived, however, as prices fell from 8,820 to 8,356 in the 60 minutes. To 6 UTC. The failure to hold above the long-term average, a barometer of the long-term trend and a level which has acted as stiff resistance over the last 2 weeks, may embolden sellers, possibly leading to the deeper slide to $8,000. A daily close above the 200-day moving average is needed to revive the short-term bullish setup. So there's another sentiment from a fifth chart analyst right here. All right, let's hop into the next piece here. There's a tweet here from Galgatron, and I just enjoy this. I reported on the story yesterday, but I like the tweet, so I want to share this. And Galgatron writes, "That moment when your baby is all grown up and leaves for college, the XRP ledger is now officially, indisputably, 100% decentralized. Ripple no longer has veto/stopping power. The ledger belongs to the world now." And this is referencing, of course, what's on your screen. Default UNL dominance, 80% non-Ripple validators. And then there's a little baby boo tiny asterisk right here. Galvatron also wrote, "Understandably, while we sit in the range of 80%, we'll waffle back and forth when the occasional validator goes offline, but it's mostly a symbolic line that we're on, and it will safely recede into the distance with each new validator." So in case you hadn't heard that, it's good news. It's just further decentralization of the XRP ledger. All right, next here, this is just a funny one. This is from Paul. He's at Paul_B_123 on Twitter. Take a look at this. This is just beautiful. It's a picture of a bull in a spacesuit. How can you not smile at that? So he tagged me and wrote, "Keep up the good work, my friend," with a little emoji winky face. Well, winking right back at you, Paul. Thank you very much for this. This did make me laugh. I very much like this. So I had to share it with the channel right here. There you go. That's a picture of me in a spacesuit right there. A moon Lambo. Getting ready for blast off. All right, last piece here. If Bitcoin fails, crypto industry in for a bad time, Cardano founder says. Ethereum co-founder turned Cardano ADA creator Charles Hoskinson believes that if Bitcoin fails, the entire cryptocurrency industry could fail, which to me is completely absurd, but hey, diversity of thought, man, it's okay. Hoskinson made his remarks during an interview for the Off the Chain podcast on October 10th, hosted by Morgan Creek Digital Assets co-founder Anthony Pompliano. After multiple projects that included co-founding Ethereum, Hoskinson, a mathematician, cryptographer, and entrepreneur, founded the peer-to-peer technology firm Input Output Hong Kong, IOHK, in 2015. As CEO of IOHK, Hoskinson created and launched the cryptocurrency Cardano in 2017, which uses a proof-of-stake algorithm dubbed Ouroboros. During the interview, Hoskinson reflected on Bitcoin's origins, the parameters they set for subsequent projects so dubbed Bitcoin maximalism, and how Bitcoin's future survival is intimately bound up with the fate of the entire industry. One of the biggest problems with Bitcoin, he began, is that it's blind, deaf, and dumb, and that was by design. This was appropriate for its earliest ambitions, he said, proposing that the two core features of the Bitcoin experiment were: will proof of work evolve into a decentralized system, and will the token achieve value? Conversely, Bitcoin was never intended to replicate the world financial system and also be fully compliant with that system. This was not in its scope. Hoskinson critiqued Bitcoin maximalists for taking Satoshi's vision as the gospel and dismissing any deviation from it as wrong. I can't even make pull payments with Bitcoin, and that's the bread and butter of most of our commercial systems. That's a quote from Hoskinson. A maximalist should concede that Bitcoin's not necessarily always fit for purpose, he said. And having to go off-chain to solve certain limitations isn't the solution either. And here's another quote. You don't solve your decentralized reality, your decentralized dream, by centralizing it. That's philosophically incompatible. Which is what Lightning Network does, by the way. I've made that case many times on this channel. And then the piece continues. Hoskinson's comments on Bitcoin importance for the entire cryptocurrency space spun out of a conversation of the merits of proof of work versus proof of stake, and which of the two is more likely to survive. And of course, they didn't even talk about consensus, right? As far as I'm aware. He made the case that proof of work systems will only survive if they find a way to evolve in such a way that the work computation becomes useful, i.e. by monetizing excess computational capacity in order to establish a marketplace for distributed computation. Currently, he argued, those who are evangelic about the need to preserve an absolutely trustless protocol ignore the fact that proof-of-work systems always federate in reality, being determined by who has access to subsidized power, data centers, and specialized ASIC miners, which is another point that I always make. So I actually do like that. Notwithstanding his vision of how the proof-of-work space needs to evolve in order to overcome these shortcomings, he concluded with robust acknowledgement that, quote, Bitcoin, frankly, is the brand of cryptocurrencies. We can't say, oh, I'm going to succeed, but Bitcoin will fail. If Bitcoin fails, the whole industry is probably in for a really bad time. I disagree. I absolutely disagree. Look, if Bitcoin starts to fail, what does that even mean? It's already failed as a currency, so you just mean fail in terms of accumulating additional price appreciation? Is that what we're talking about here? Because, that could happen, and the rest of the asset class can tank. But because there's actually utility with a coin like XRP, for example, eventually, even if XRP's price plummeted as a result, imagine Bitcoin actually went to zero. That probably wouldn't be too good for XRP or other coins in the short term in terms of price action specifically. But what would ultimately happen? Are humans just going to just no longer acknowledge the fact that there's real utility to be had with XRP? Well, I don't think so. I think ultimately price would rebound, and it doesn't matter. Furthermore, what if XRP continues to appreciate in value and eventually supplants Bitcoin in terms of market cap, becomes number one in terms of market cap, which I think would happen eventually anyway because utility matters. That's my entire investment thesis. So what if that happens and then Bitcoin fails? Well, at that point, I don't think XRP would tank anyway. So a couple of ways in which this could play out timeline-wise, but no, I don't think at all that this all goes away. I mean, yeah, you could have some really unsightly price action if people just lost confidence in it, but I don't think people are going to lose confidence in Bitcoin anytime soon. I don't think there's any evidence to support that. What I see is that people are still trying to figure out this asset class, and they're nowhere near figuring it out. And as a result, until then, the Ponzi scheme that is Bitcoin will continue to accrue in value. That's what I think, But you can tell I encourage diversity of thought. You think something different, you can let me know. That's it for this video, though. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!